Uh-oh. I'm a Giants fan and I can't see. I got the blinders on. Daniel Jones, time to hop on the Daniel Jones dick train. Let's be blind to the problems, folks. Barkley's out for a few weeks, schedule not getting any easier, and the worst defense in the NFL. I just hope that next week against Washington, Daniel Jones can play running back, quarterback, secondary, defensive line, and linebacker. Because this team's defense is so bad that it doesn't matter if the Giants put up 35. They ain't winning shit. Shit. Now, Daniel Jones did look great. I'm going to keep these sunglasses on and I'm going to read the newspaper because I do stupid shit. Let's see. Dynamite. Rookie pulls off miracle comeback and debut. Well, I guess Eli Manning's parking spot is going to have a different car in it for practice. Rook rallies Giants just like Eli used to. Oh, what's this in the corner? They never had a chance. Jets pounded by Pats. I mean, I could make the newspaper 24 hours early to tell you that. What the fuck was the Jets going to do? They had no quarterback. And they got injuries. That's every NFL team's excuse. Oh, we got injuries. Yeah, the Titans got fucking problems. That's what they have. Oh, man. This is your NFL Week 3 review. The NFL was interesting. I feel like so much of it was predictable, but the story of the day is obviously Daniel Jones doing his miraculous things against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whose defense looked okay, but then again, I don't know how much you can say that that's legitimate, but so the Giants win this game. The Giants beat the Bucs 33-32, I believe, or 32-31. I forgot the exact score, but here's the thing. The Giants shouldn't have won this game. Daniel Jones looked great. He did. The offense looked a little bit better, but Daniel Jones did look great, and they are definitely the quarterback he's going to be going with moving forward. The Buccaneers kicker missed a field goal at the end of the game, and like I said, that was the Buccaneers game to win, but the Giants just kept trading blows with the Buccaneers, and Daniel Jones is waking up in a good mood because the Giants did end up edging out the Buccaneers and getting their first win of the season. So now there is only one winless team in New York, and that is the New York Jets, who are looking like a train wreck so far this year. They did travel to Foxborough to play New England in this game. They were on their third-string quarterback after Trevor Siemian played last week, backing up Sam Darnold, who's had mono, and got that ankle injury and said he's going to be out for the year. So assuming that, I don't know how much longer Darnold's going to be out. They're saying that he could come back soon. Assuming I don't know how much longer Darnold is going to be out, they're going to be going with Luke Falk, and Luke Falk did not look good. Yes, they did play New England, but, you know, I kind of expected this. I actually didn't even realize the final score was 30-14. I thought it was going to be a lot worse, and I thought that New England was going to beat the Jets a lot worse. You know, the third stringer didn't seem to really do much in this game for the Jets. There's not too many talking points in this game. I don't even think Le'Veon had that great of a game. But, you know, Brady did dominate. They were at home. New England is going to stay 3-0, and I just think that this is their first game without Brown. Brown is a whole nother headache. I personally might make a video explaining that whole entire situation, which I'm sure a lot of you know. But Brown is just another headache, and New England, they just, with them releasing him, you kind of know the way their system is set, that they don't need any player to be great. They don't care who you are. They don't care if you're Khalil Mack or whatever it is. If you act a certain way and they don't like it, or it's going to distract them from their goal, which every team's goal should be to win the Super Bowl, they're just going to cut you, and they're not going to say much about it. There was no, this player said this player said that. They just cut him, and that's all she wrote. So the Jets did get smacked in this game by New England. First game without Brown. Didn't really need him. Don't think they need him in general, but that was that. And then you have the Eagles, who couldn't contain the Lions. Now, I said to some of my Eagle fan friends before the game, don't sleep on the Lions. This team has looked a lot better this year. The Lions in general have been a joke of a franchise for the last 10-plus seasons. But, you know, the Lions did edge them out 27-24. There was an awful no-face mask call in this game against the Eagles that they did not call My friend pointed that out to me, and that was absolutely atrocious. I don't know how you don't call that. Um, but the Lions were in control for majority of the game. Miles Sanders did fumble twice. I believe this is his third game for the Eagles, and also Marvin Jones did have 101 yards for the Detroit Lions. So it's good to see the Lions have a receiver because they've been looking really sad since Calvin Johnson left. But they also did have Golden Tate for a while, and he's going to be coming back for the Giants Week 5, as far as I know. So this Giants team is going to look a little bit better. But I don't really know what you're going to expect from them at all. But yes, the Lions did edge out the Eagles, and they were in control most of this game. Been an injury-prone quarterback for quite a while. The Panthers did take on the Cardinals, and Kyler Murray didn't seem to do much in this game. But from the game itself, Carolina put up 38 points on offense. McCaffrey was a monster, and I think you have to consider him when you say top 5 running backs in the game, because this guy's been a beast, and I don't think he gets almost enough credit on that team. He did rush for 153 yards in this game. Cam Newton did not start. They had to back up Kyle Allen, and he looked fantastic. Yes, it's against the Cardinals defense, but the guy still looked great. It was 38-20. He threw for 4 touchdowns, and the Panthers steamrolled the Arizona Cardinals in this game. And but the problem is that I just saw earlier that Cam Newton was announced that he will not play Week 4. And if Kyle Allen does anything that he did already, I don't know who Carolina plays next week, but the Panthers could have some hope in their season. But the problem is I just think that Cam Newton is always an injury problem, and he's always overthrowing his receivers. The guy's a good quarterback, but I just think that the Panthers, maybe he's part of the problem. I don't study the Panthers close enough to know that, but that is basically where I'm headed with that on that situation. Now, you did have the Colts playing the Atlanta Falcons this week, and I was hoping that our division rival Colts would soften them up, because we do play Atlanta next week, and I know Keanu Neal was just announced today, the safety is going to miss the rest of the season with an injury, so that helps us. Brissett did look good. He looked a lot better this week than he did last week against us, but he didn't look bad against us either. But Brissett looked a lot better this week. Matt Ryan, every single damn game, he has to throw a pick. I don't know what this guy's issue is. You know, you got a great offense with that going on. Julio had another great game. I think he had 100+ yards on 8 receptions. Again, I would have to look that up again. T.Y. Hilton did get hurt in this game. I'm not sure if he came back or not. But Matt Ryan did throw a pick, and the Colts did end up edging out the Falcons 27-24. Atlanta is going to be playing us next week, so I'm looking forward to that matchup, especially our secondary against Julio Jones. I think it's going to be tough, and we need to start moving the offense better. But yes, they did have Brissett did look good in this game, and the Colts would edge out the Falcons, which I actually forgot when I was doing the intro, is Tennessee at Jacksonville. And man, as a Titans fan wearing this Mariota jersey, I want to gouge my eyes out, drink bleach until I do not breathe anymore. This was one of the worst performances by the Tennessee Titans I've seen. This is my first year watching the Tennessee Titans full games. I've been a fan for over a decade. It's my first year watching full games, and this was the worst offensive performance in maybe Tennessee Titan history. It was raining partially in the beginning of this game, but man, our offensive line was fucking invisible in this game. It was atrocious. We gave up 9 sacks. Mariota had about a second and a half to throw the ball. He was running for his life the whole game. Calais Campbell himself, I believe, got 4 sacks in this game. It was just an atrocious performance. Our receivers could not catch the football. On defense, we were doing okay. Gardner Minshew did have some plays at DJ Chark, and they were scoring as well. Our defense wasn't atrocious. We were stopping the run. Fournette was a bag of chips in this game. They had no run game against us, but our offense looked absolutely atrocious, and there were some penalties that were shooting ourselves in the foot, and we were ourselves there. Our offense could not move the ball down the field. Henry didn't do too much. He was okay in this game. It was just a problem on offense for the Titans, and that's been our problem for so long, is that our offense is atrocious. We've got the names. Corey Davis is a third-year rookie, I believe, for us, and I think Corey Davis is good. I like Delaney Walker. He's one of the best tight ends in the league, and Adam Humphries did have a nice little performance in this game. He had 6 catches for 93 yards, but besides that, there wasn't too much to talk about. Mariota was getting hit. He hasn't really thrown. I don't know if he's thrown any picks so far this year. He hasn't been too bad with that. But like I said, that first game against Cleveland, a lot of our points were off of defense, and this has just got to be something's got to be addressed here because the offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, I think he's atrocious. I think he's god awful. Our defensive coordinator's done great, and Vrabel's okay as a coach. I don't know why we went for it on fourth down early in this game and completely shit the bed. And that's that. So we're going to play Atlanta next week. We lose 20-7 to Jacksonville, and that was a disappointing loss. The two quarterbacks of the future, perhaps Baltimore and Kansas City, they were also in this. And this was one of the games that I kept in touch with and I watched for the most part. Mahomes did what he did. He threw for 374 in this game. And Kansas City, it was a slow game to begin with, and then Kansas City really started running away with it, and then Baltimore kind of got right back in it. Mark Ingram was a beast, and if you had him in your fantasy, this was a good day for him. He ran great. He had 3 touchdowns running, and Lamar was not super insane in this game, but he was good enough to keep them close with Kansas City. They did fall to Kansas City 33-28, and Mahomes keeps doing what he does, and it doesn't matter which team he plays. He is a beast, and Kansas City's moving on to 3-0. And Baltimore takes their first loss of the season, I believe. The next game was a game that I didn't really care to watch. I didn't really care to follow. It was the Oakland Raiders taking on the Minnesota Vikings, and they got absolutely obliterated by the Vikings in this game. Dalvin Cook is quickly becoming one of the best running backs in the league. He rushed for 110 in this game. But on the other side, the losing side, Darren Waller did go off as tight end for the Raiders. He had 153 yards, I believe. It may have been something like that, but they did get murdered by the Minnesota Vikings 34-14. Not too much to talk about in this game. And the Raiders are going to have to see how they can play, how their defense, after losing Jonathan Abram and certain players, is going to be able to adapt in the against teams that have good offenses and good overall teams as well. But the Raiders do get steamrolled in this game. Now, as Seattle and New Orleans, and this was actually a beatdown for majority of the game. This was Drew Brees' first game that he was not starting. Teddy Bridgewater looked okay. He wasn't doing anything fantastic, but generally speaking, the Saints were dominating the Seattle this whole entire game. Alvin Kamara was big. I think he had the most receiving yards and rushing yards. Alvin Kamara was big for the Saints in this game. Tyler Lockett as well had a great game. I think he had 154 yards, and Wilson had 400 plus yards in this game as well. So Seattle almost did their comeback. Seattle's a team that comes back in a lot of their games. Just because they're getting dominated doesn't mean that that's the final score. They almost came back and beat the Saints. This was a good game. This was in the 4 o'clock frame. But New Orleans did hold them off. And I think that without Drew Brees, this team will still be okay. New Orleans did hold off the Seattle comeback, and they won 33-27. The next game was the Bills and the Bengals. And now, for a little bit, this game was kind of close. The Bengals looked awful. And they have all season. They have yet to win a game. And I feel like this is a team that has talent, but they just can't win games. The Bengals almost attempted to come back in this game against Buffalo. Frank Gore is not showing any signs of age, really. He did have 76 yards. And I don't know how the clock is ticking on this guy's career, but I can't imagine him being around too much longer. But the Bengals are 0-3 and the Bills are 3-0. So two teams that you could have seen before the season swapping sides, with the Bengals being 3-0 and the Bills being 0-3. But Buffalo's playing good, and they're silently playing as a good team. They remain undefeated. They beat Cincinnati 21-17. And now the next game was a game that, judging by the first half, you could have fooled around and accidentally gave the Dolphins a chance against the Dallas Cowboys, but that was not the case. It was 10-6 at halftime. They weren't doing too much. Dallas wasn't dominating like they normally do, especially not in the first half. Elliott did have a great game. He ran for 125, and in the second half, Dak turned on the wheels, and the whole entire team ignited. They demolished the Dolphins. They did not score a single point in the second half, and Dallas ran all over this team, literally. They beat them 31-6, and Elliott had 125 rushing. Again, probably the best running back in the league. And Dallas looked great. Yes, it's against the Dolphins, who are 0-3, and the Dolphins might contend for a 2-14 season, and they might be an 0-16 season as well. So I guess at this point, anybody who plays the Dolphins has one job: don't lose to the Dolphins, because that first team to lose will never get looked at the same. The Cowboys ran all over, but their first test against a good team is going to be next week. They're playing New Orleans next Sunday night, and that's their first test. This Cowboys team has looked great. I give them credit. Their offense has looked fantastic, but they've also played mediocre defenses. They played Giants, that doesn't really count. They played the Dolphins in this game, that definitely doesn't count. And I forgot who they played week 2. They played week 2. Who did they play week 2? Somebody will have to let me know who the Cowboys played week 2, but it wasn't a good team as well. So the Cowboys they looked great in the second half. And the next game was a game that the Steelers could have won. This was their first game without Big Ben. They were taking on the 49ers, who have silently been a good team this year. Jimmy G looked sharp usually in this game, but then he started to look a little bit shaky. I believe he had 2 picks. Juju Smith-Schuster did have a good game for the Steelers. He had 81 yards. And Rudolph looked okay. He wasn't doing his Daniel Jones impression or anything fantastic, but he generally looked okay in this game, and the 49ers were able to edge them out. I believe it was 24-21, 27-24, something like that. Someone will have to remind me. I did not get the score for this game. If there's any team that looks atrocious this year that shouldn't look atrocious, it's the Denver Broncos. Yes, they played a Green Bay team that is generally decent. Green Bay is 3-0 as well. I think this is going to be a season where we see a lot of teams go undefeated longer than normal. Usually by week 5 or 6, there's only 1 or 2 teams left that's undefeated. There are a lot of undefeated teams left, and yes, it's only been 3 games, but I think that this is going to be something that it's going to be a dominant year for some teams. The Broncos didn't look good. Their defense hasn't really looked good all year. There's nothing to really talk about for the Broncos in this game. There really isn't. They scored 16 on offense. Cortland Sutton had a play in that game where it should have been ruled a touchdown. I believe it was 3rd and goal. I did see that play as I was switching through the games. Rodgers looked all right. Wasn't a dominant performance for Aaron Rodgers, but the Green Bay Packers did get it done, and the Denver Broncos are really going to have to figure out what's going on with their defense, because this is one of the more dominant defenses in the league, and their offense hasn't really been putting up numbers as well. Lindsey did have 81 yards, I think, in this game, but he had 21 carries. For me, I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure 21 carries is a lot of carries to just get 81 yards. But regardless, it was done, and Broncos are winless. They're 0-3. They do got Jacksonville next week. And the way they played against us, I know the Broncos, I don't know if I'd say the Titans or Broncos are better. I think the Broncos have better names. I think the Broncos should be better than us, but I don't really know. It's been 3 games, so you have that basic idea, that first impression of these teams. But the Broncos didn't look good, and that's just going to be a problem for them. So we'll kind of see where that goes on in the future with that. But the next game, this might be the actual final game I'm going to check on here, was the Texans and the Chargers. The Chargers really. Their offensive line looks like shit, and their secondary looks awful. That's what I'm being told from Chargers fans. But Keenan Allen was brilliant in this game. He's probably a top 5 receiver in this game, and I feel like he doesn't really make that number 5 cut like he should. But Keenan Allen was fantastic. He had 178 yards receiving. But this LA Chargers team did lose to Houston, who is quietly looking good. And I think this AFC South for us Titans is going to be very, very difficult to win, especially now that Jacksonville is starting to look a little bit better. The Colts have been the forefront for me all year, and Houston is good too. So I think that, I don't want to say we're the worst in this division, but Jacksonville did body us on Thursday, so it's going to be really a tough division. I think the AFC South is going to be a dogfight this season. And I don't really know if Gardner Minshew keeps going, if Nick Foles, now I know Nick Foles is going to be the starter regardless, but what if this Gardner Minshew thing is starts to get better? What if they don't lose with him? And I think maybe they'll have a decision to make, but I think they're just going to go with Nick Foles. But the final game of the day, and I don't really have any notes for this game, was the Sunday night frame game. The LA Rams and the Cleveland Browns was the final game of your football Sunday. Just before I get to these notes, I want to say that the final game of the week is tonight, and it's a snooze fest. Chicago taking on Washington in the Monday night cap of your football weekend. Chicago should win this game. Washington hasn't really done much. Case Keenum's looked okay in his games, but I don't really see Washington doing anything. I think the Giants generally might actually be a better team than Washington, and they will not finish last in this game. Actually, I did watch some of this game. It was a very defensive game. I think it was 6-3 at halftime, and they kind of kicked up a little bit in the second half. The Rams did end up taking out the Browns 20-13. Baker Mayfield says don't hit the panic button. I'm not hitting the panic button. The first game against Titans, that's a trial. The second game was against the Jets. And the third game was against a top team in the NFC in the LA Rams. So I'm not going to be hitting the panic button on this. The Browns didn't even look too bad in this game, I don't think. So really, yeah, that's your week 3 fiasco review. I hope you enjoyed that intro. I'm gonna try to do more things like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of games. Definitely the game of the week has to be Giants and Tampa with that Daniel Jones miraculous thing. But a lot of these games were close. But I don't think anything really supremely stood out in this week. And I definitely think week 2 is a little bit more exciting. But mine would be as good as yours. I'm going to try to do maybe some more NFL news kind of stuff and definitely start kicking on because it is almost time to pick up the basketball and do some NBA preview and predictions as well after the craziest offseason in maybe NBA history. So I appreciate everybody for watching, and that's it.